The Jets are still making free agency moves. Well, how do these moves affect their strategy as we come closer to the 2025 NFL draft? A lot to get into, and who better to bring on to talk all things Jets free agency than one of the best in the business Jets NFL draft analyst, Cole Thompson joins us right here, right now on NY Flight Jets Talk.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
What's going on, everyone? Hello and welcome back here to another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk on this Saturday, March 15th, 2025. Can't thank you guys enough for all tuning in here on the show. Make sure you smash the like button and you are subscribed to the channel. That's the free way to help us grow here, and it does wonders for the channel. So please make sure you like and subscribe. Free way helps us grow significantly. The paid way helps us just as much. Get into our membership raffle. We'll throw the ticker on down below. Every membership gifted will get you a ticket into our raffle. Every membership gifted, every $2.99 super chat gets you an entry with a chance to win a Wayne Corbett signed jersey, a Darrelle Revis signed photo, an Altoon signed photo, Keyshawn Johnson signed photo, Jericho Cotchery signed photo, a free item from our merch store, channel emoji, this month's prizes, leaderboard with the prizes on the ticker down below. So make sure you get in on that. If you haven't already, joining me right now, super happy we're able to make this now a weekly thing from now until the start of the 2025 NFL draft. Joining me every single Saturday here on the show will be NFL draft analyst Cole Thompson, who is kind enough to grace us with his presence now every single week until the start of the NFL draft. Cole, super happy we're able to do this. Can't thank you enough for sparing some time.
You are way too kind saying that I am now like one of the best draft analysts. I do a good job. There's a bunch of people who are way better than me that know way more than I do, but I love coming on and talking with you, Connor. You're one of my favorite people. You do such good work, and any single time that I can help you out, I'm more than happy to come on this show. Let's talk Jets. Let's talk about what we're going to do at 7, what we're going to do in the third round, what you got to look for in day 4. And is there a player that maybe you're willing to trade a pick for to potentially land before free agency ends?
Cole, really, really kind of you. I appreciate you hopping on as always, and I can't thank you enough for all your support. Yeah, we're going to start with the 2 free agency moves that pretty much came overnight for the Jets, and we'll pull this up tweet here from Zach Rosenblatt, kind of breaking down the 2 names. Wide receiver Tyler Johnson, who played for the Rams last season, was with your Texans in 2022, and someone else who actually was with your Texans last year is cornerback Chris Boyd. Cole, I'm going to start with Chris Boyd because he was with your Texans this past season. We all know him from when he shoved the special teams coordinator Frank Ross during one of the playoff games, during the first playoff game against the Chiefs. Break down Chris Boyd here for me, Cole.
Yeah, he's more than just a guy who got a little, I would say aggressive is the right word, even though people said, oh, no, it was not aggressive. Like, yeah, I mean, you don't ever shove your position coach. That's a rule number 1. And if you want to stay employed in the NFL, he's a special teamer. This is a guy that you're not going to see play a lot of defense. He's taken 68 total defensive snaps since 2020, 2021. So he's averaging about 77, 78% of snaps on special teams. He's a gunner on punt returns. I mean on punts, on kickoffs. He's very, very athletic, and he's very, very aggressive. That'll be somebody that you're going to say, hey, we're bringing him on in because we want him to get down to the football and we want him to make a tackle immediately. He's got good closing speed. He is a very aggressive player. He wins a lot of one-on-one battles with the big guy that he's matched up against on kickoffs. And a lot of the big thing that has been a selling point for him is that he is somebody that is thriving on special teams. So if you're trying to get him to be more of like an outside cornerback, if you think that he's anything more than just a depth piece at that point, you're going to be underwhelmed. But if you know what his role is, which is, again, let's just get to the football on kickoffs, on punts, make a tackle, then he's going to fit with your team.
Now, the next signing the Jets made, they made that overnight as well. They bring in wide receiver Tyler Johnson. Now, Cole, this is another interesting move for the Jets because wide receiver is certainly a position of need now after the
That
Jets
sucks.
after they cut Devontae Adams and now he signs with the Rams. So the Jets need a lot of wide receiver help. Their first wide receiver addition of the offseason, 26-year-old Tyler Johnson. He was a 5th-round pick by the Bucks in 2020. He's bounced around since he first came in the league in 2020. He spent time with the Texans, the Bucks, the Raiders, and he was with the Rams the past 2 seasons. He's played in 49 career games, 8 starts. He's caught 76 of his 116 targets for 828 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had a really, really solid season last year from when he got an opportunity. He's made 13 of his 19 contested catches in his NFL career, and I think the Jets need that. He's not a wide receiver too, Tyler Johnson, obviously, but the Jets are looking for someone who can come in and get you those contested catches. That's why I really like Josh Palmer as an option in free agency because he's someone who wasn't going to cost you the house. He has speed. He could get you contested catches. I don't think Tyler Johnson is a wide receiver too, but didn't have a drop last season and was a yak machine. 63% of his 291 yards came after the catch last season. I think this is another low risk, high reward type move by Darren Muji. You know, what's the worst thing that could happen? You pay the guy a couple $1 million. He's gone after 1 year. You move on. This is a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 type guy in my eyes. Cole, do you remember anything from his time with the Texans?
He was always injured when he was here, and then he got waived, and they went immediately over to Las Vegas. So they didn't really see him play that much. He was a standout in practice, so I know that he was a hard worker and that many people in Houston thought he could eventually be that wide receiver 3 type role. I'm going to disagree and say that he's a wide receiver 4. I think he's a wide receiver 5. That he's just that extra dude that hey, we need to switch some things up. He's got some good speed. You already talked about the contested catches. When you're 6'2" and you can come down with 50-50 balls that turn more so into 75-25 in your favor, that's a way to stay on the active roster. I think that the way he played last year in a very limited sample size, I think that he never finished with more than 42% of reps in a game with Los Angeles, but still made his impact felt along with Tutu Atwell. When Cooper Kupp was out, when Puka Nacua was out, he was still being a focal point of the offense for Matthew Stafford as they went on a playoff run. I think that's going to at least bode well for him to be a part of the active roster. And again, I think you brought up a good point. It's a flyer. It's somebody who maybe fits Darren Engstred's offense to a T, maybe as somebody that you think that could be at least a quality depth piece to where an injury occurs on a Saturday, you got to go play on a Sunday. He can come on in for one game and be kind of like that Band-Aid over a wound that you need stitches until you get to the hospital to stop the bleeding just a little bit. That's probably Tyler Johnson. I wouldn't have like these high hopes that he is going to be somebody that comes in and makes a day one impact, is somebody that you're looking at to be a game changer opposite of Garrett Wilson. You still got to target in the draft. If you can go bring in another free agent wide receiver, I would do so. But you need depth. I mean, so many times people don't pay attention to these small micro signings that eventually become big reasons why the culture improves, the roster improves, the locker room improves. I don't hate the Tyler Johnson signing. I'm just also not betting anything more than a guy being a 10 catch, maybe 120-yard type of receiver.
Cole, time to get into the draft. I know this is what we brought you on for. You're a draft analyst, and someone we're both really high on is Ted McMillan. And a lot of people are starting to get dismissed by the idea of he didn't run the 40 at the combine. He's most likely not going to run at his pro day. I view this move by Ted McMillan as a solid move. Why would he run? What does he need to show NFL teams? It's only going to hurt him if he goes out and he runs a 4.7. So a lot of people who were like us at first in the boat, they were high on Ted. Now are starting to lower their stance just because of the fact that he's not running at his combine. He's not running at his pro day. What do you have to say to those people? How much stock should you put into Ted not running at his pro day?
Do you guys remember last year when Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't do any of that? And nobody complained, and they just said, yeah, he was wide receiver 1. Kind of the same thing. Like that's the way that I view it, because there is a certain level, and I think I've talked about this before, Connor, where you take the combine numbers, you take the on-field production, and then you take the drills that you see at the pro day, and you look at all of them together, and you try to find a baseline on what you believe this prospect can be. What is the thing that you're more of an emphasis on? To me, it's production on the field, and it's the way that you played in college. I watched for the last 2 seasons with 2 different offensive coordinators, Ted McMillan, be the most complete wide receiver in the Big 12/Pac-12. I thought that last year he was better than Ramadunze coming out. I thought that he was better than Troy Franklin. I thought he was better than Tez Johnson in the Pac-12. This past season, Arizona, kind of people forgot about them because they went 4-8. Hey, lost everybody. Noah Fafita took a step backwards. Jed Fish goes to Washington. But McMillan every single week was winning his one-on-one battles, getting 100-plus receiving yards, targeted 11 times, coming down with 9 catches, finding his way into the end zone. He probably would have won the Biletnikoff Award if Arizona was a bowl team. But the reason why I truly believe that he didn't win the Biletnikoff Award is because they saw the way that Travis Hunter was playing 2 ways. They saw Nick Nash, the way that he was just coming up with record-setting numbers, and San Jose State wasn't a bad team, and Arizona was just such an abysmal defense. The offense was pretty stale outside of Ted McMillan that he was kind of thrown on the wayside. But when you watch his film, the way that I view him is, I think that he is a little bit lesser version of what Drake London is. 6'4", big-bodied receiver, gonna win inside the red zone. Overall, I think he's a better route runner than Drake London was coming out of USC. I think his route tree is more refined than Drake London's coming out of USC. I will say Drake London was a better, I think, contested catcher than Ted McMillan coming out, but you're picking hairs at this point. In the right offense, I believe that Ted McMillan can be a top 20 receiver in the NFL. Now, for the Jets, I can understand why you have your reserves, and more importantly, why you may want to pivot off of Ted McMillan. I believe Ted McMillan is the only wide receiver one in this draft. Now, I love Matthew Golden. I love Luther Burden.
What about Emeka Egbuka?
I love Emeka Egbuka. I think they all are solid wide receiver twos. You put them paired alongside with a Nico Collins in Houston or a Garrett Wilson in New York, or let's just say that Mike Evans leaves and you go ahead and you're forced with Chris Godwin. Or let's just say that Chris Godwin left in free agency and you want to bring in another wide receiver. Pairs really well with the Mike Evans. That's what they provide. But none of them, I don't think, are going to be these guys that we talk about as 1,500 receiving yards, 120 catches, 9 touchdowns, alpha for their team. They will always be a complementary piece to the offense. I think Ted McMillan is a number one. I think that he is a game changer. I think that in 2 or 3 years, you could be talking about him as one of the best overall receivers in the NFL, at least when it comes to his role in an offense. I think he's only going to get better. And so if you're the Jets, you may say to yourself, we have so many other holes right now. We got to get better at linebacker. We got to get better at defensive end. We want to get better at right tackle. We want to get better at tight end. Hell, you've already brought up Ashton Genty. Maybe we find a trade Bruce Hall, and then it's like, hey, he's right there and play at number 7. So it's like it's little things like that to where I can say, I understand why you don't want to go for Ted McMillan. But let's just say the guy that I truly believe should be the pick at number 7 is off the board. And let's just say that Tyler Warren, you end up like not having a good meeting with him. Ted McMillan is not a bad complimentary piece because for Justin Fields, you got to have weapons. I mean, when you look at what they did in Chicago, part of the reason he failed was they didn't have really quality weapons for him. When you look at what happened when he was in Pittsburgh, it was a lot of dink and dunk passes to Pat Freiermuth, and it was George Pickens, and that was about it. Like, they didn't have complementary pieces on the outside. They didn't have a secondary force. So I think if you want to get the best version out of Justin Fields, and if you truly do believe that you can actually see Justin Fields as an option long-term, you got to add talent around him. Now, I will say again, if you want to go in a different direction because of you feel good about having a wide receiver 1, by all means, I can understand passing up on Ted McMillan. But if I can get a 6'4" wide receiver that's a pretty solid route runner, has a dynamic route tree, can catch in space, good change of direction, overall, I would say good straight line speed, and the potential to be a top 20 receiver, absolutely, I believe that he should be in play at number 7, especially if the guy who I really want at number 7 is off the board.
Another position I want to get into, Cole, you kind of mentioned it right there. It's right tackle. Overall, even just the tackle position, Olu Fashanu, he's going to be in line to be the Jets' starting left tackle next season. But we've seen Armand Membu, that name being floated around after he had a crazy combine. I've been in the boat all along. I don't like the overall tackle value at the 7th overall pick. I think you can address tackle in one of the later rounds. Hollins Pierce from Rutgers is a name I'm super high on. Ozzie Trapillo is my guy in this year's class. What are your thoughts on potentially going tackle at 7? Do you think it's worth it, or you think they should pass up and try to go with more of a pass catcher or a weapon type guy?
That's my pick at 7.
Wow.
Armand Membo is my pick. If Armand Membo's on the board, I'm taking Armand Membo. I just am. I think that he is the most complete tackle in the class. And the thing is that this is very it's not fair to go ahead and compare these two situations because they're not from the same regime, even though that Aaron Glenn comes from, what's it called? Even though Aaron Glenn comes from Detroit. Both started off by building a foundation. In my opinion, you have got to have a foundation up front and just take the players that you know are going to be decade-long staples for your team. Who was their first pick underneath the Dan Campbell regime? Penei Sewell. They went for a right tackle, a guy that was a left tackle in college that they knew was either going to have to move inside the guard or they're going to kick him out to right tackle. And
they also picked Jack Campbell really, really high as well.
They picked Jack Campbell really, really high. They also went Jahmyr Gibbs. So it's like they do things differently. But their first pick, the one that I will always remember Brad Holmes for, and the way that he wanted to set the culture was getting a tackle. And they had a left tackle. They had a good left tackle, Taylor Decker. They just paid Taylor Decker. But they're like, we want to protect our quarterback. We don't care about what the record is. We need to make sure that if we're going to run it forward with Jared Goff, he has got to have protection. I think Armand Membo, from a tackle perspective, is the best tackle in this draft. I think that he has already gotten 3 years of experience playing right tackle, and the Jets need a right tackle. They really, really need a right tackle. Losing Morgan Moses to the New England Patriots for $8 million a year, in my opinion, is a steal for New England, and it really stinks for what you have to change your draft.
You think it's a steal? Paying a 34-year-old $7 million a year, a 34-year-old who hasn't been able to stay on the field?
Okay, do you understand, Connor, that there are that Dan Moore, who is a below-average tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, got $84 million and has been, at best, a league average tackle. And Morgan Moses...
Well, that's an overpay, too. That's not to say Morgan Moses.
But Morgan Moses, for $8 million on a team where you're just saying, hey, we're going to use you for a year. We can go ahead and utilize our draft capital to maybe move back. We can go take Ted McMillan. We can actually now look at saying we're going to take Travis Hunter. I'm cool with that if I'm New England. Like, it's a 1-year stopgap to where if you get him for longer...
Oh, I think it's a good option. I just don't like the contract. Like, I think it's a great signing from, like, an overall player, but I don't think it's a good contract.
I think $7 million for a 34-year-old when you got some guys...
3 years, though. 3 years, though.
But one of those years is voidable. So really, think of it as a 2-year contract. Is the best way to put it. $14 million, I would take that for a Morgan Moses. The point is that you have a hole at right tackle right now. And the thing that we know about Justin Fields is that when he was in Chicago, he was behind one of the worst offensive lines. He was running for his life. If you want to trust, again, having a foundation, Olu Fashanu is your left tackle. You feel really good about what you got potentially at your center position. Elijah Vera Tucker, are you going to sign to an extension this offseason? Are you going to sign to an extension or let him hit free agency next year? But I want to figure out what's my foundation. And I always believe, number one, to win in the NFL, to win in football just in general, you got to have the trenches perfect. You have to have stability in your trenches, offensive line and defensive line. I feel good about the defensive line right now, at least in round one. I feel like if you can get a right tackle, number one, it's going to help you with Justin Fields. It's going to give him time to build that rapport back up with what you got in Garrett Wilson. I think that this draft has enough talent at tight end and also at wide receiver to where you can find a complimentary wide receiver number 2 in the second round. With your third round pick, you can find a tight end. I think you could use a 4th round pick to trade for a tight end with a couple years of what am I trying to say?
The tight end?
Yeah, a couple years left on the contract. A couple years
for who?
longevity. Okay, let's say that Dallas Goedert, you could get him for a 4th round pick.
Okay, I would do that in a heartbeat, by the way.
But what I'm saying is, you could do something like that. So you have the opportunity to get those players. I don't know if you can get a tackle like Armand Membo that will be a plug-and-play starter day 1 in round 2 or round 3. Because also, I'm not high on this tackle class. I think that there is a lot of questions with most of the quote-unquote tackle prospects. Like, I think Will Campbell, he is a really good player. I think Will Campbell is an all-pro guard. I am going to give him a shot to play tackle in the NFL. I believe in 2 years, you will watch him move inside. He will be an all-pro guard immediately. Just he will flourish there. I got questions when it comes to Calvin Banks out of the University of Texas. Yeah. I think that both Savina and Milam, the 2 Big 12 offensive tackles from West Virginia and Arizona, I think that they're going to shift inside to guard. I think that Gray Zabel has already made it clear he's going to be an interior offensive lineman next season. Well, it's not going to guarantee
Membu is going to be a right tackle, right? Like, aren't there still talks he's going to play on the inside?
There's talks about it, but I think it's doing a disservice. Personally, I think there's certain players that I just look at and go, if you play them at their natural position, watch them flourish. Don't try to overcorrect it. Like, I remember when Laramie Tunsil was drafted by the Miami Dolphins, and the plan was to have him just play the left guard position for a year That way, Braden Albert, they could get him off the contract and they would move him to outside. But his worst statistical year was playing guard because if he didn't play guard, he was a tackle. So I look at what a guy like Armand Membu, 6'6", 3 years of starting experience in the SEC. He was one of the best pass protectors this past season. He was a staple for that Tigers line the last 2 years that got back-to-back double-digit win seasons. He has been a right tackle. He has been really good in run blocking. He has incredible upside in pass protection. Why would you try to correct it when he's already good at what he does? Right tackle. That's just my thing. Leave him at right tackle. Let him flourish at right tackle. Like that whole Evan Neal thing is it right now. The Tennessee Titans drafted him. They're like, we're going to move him to left tackle. It's like he has never played left tackle before in his entire life. You really think that the first year playing in the NFL, it's a smart move to move him to left tackle? What did they do this offseason? Yeah, we're going to sign Dan Moore, an actual left tackle, and move him back to right tackle. Like there's just sometimes you don't want to overcorrect it.
Yeah.
Let him play right tackle.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. Cole Thompson, Connor Long, here with you on NY Flight. Jets Talk, throw your questions in the chat. For Cole and I, if you want to call into the show, you could do so with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Matthew Smith comes in, says, so Tet is Marvin Harrison Jr. Really,
Oh,
Cole?
God, not this dumbass again. I dealt with him yesterday. Nobody is saying that, Matthew. Nobody is saying that at all, Princess. What we're saying is that he didn't run at all. He didn't do a single workout until it was his private workout. And Marvin Harrison Jr., the narrative around him was still he was the best wide receiver. That's what I'm saying when it comes to Tet McMillan. Would you like to try again? I would love to hear what you have to say, Princess. I really would.
He comes back in. He says Trey Harris, Xavier Restrepo, or Golden. If he falls to 42.
Can you
Golden's
listen?
not
I know
gonna
you don't
be
have a
42.
shadow. I know you don't have a shadow ban, but my God, Matthew Smith is thinking that Matthew Golden is going to fall to 42. He's going to be either the first or second receiver taken. Like Trey Harris and Xavier Restrepo, you're at least thinking inside the box. Golden, dude, enough. Like enough, bro.
Trey Harris, I think he could be an option. I'm going to get into it a little, what the Jets could do with the 73rd overall pick now that everyone's been made aware. The Jets actually do have that pick. Yeah. I think Trey Harris would be more of a better option at 73. Like, Restrepo's going to be there at 42, and I think you take him at 42. I'm really like Xavier Restrepo. Trey Harris, I like him, but I'm thinking he's like a 73rd. He reminds me in the sense like he's getting a lot of hype. I'm not in that same boat. Like Luther Burden, for example, is someone who's been getting a lot of hype. I don't like Luther Burden at all. Like I would not.
How do you not like Luther Burden?
He's a pure slot guy. He's 5'10".
Okay.
Pure slot guy. Concentration drops. I don't like him overall. I want someone who has that alignment versatility. You can like Jaden Higgins is a perfect example. You can move him around. He can play all three wide receiver positions. That's who I'm looking for. Rather than if somehow Luther Burden falls to 42, I'll take him. But in the first round, I'm definitely not taking him.
Well, for the Jets, no, there's no reason to. Yeah, I agree with that.
Everything I say is surrounded about the Jets. So if I don't like Luther Burden, it means I don't like him for the Jets.
You don't like Jalen Noel from Iowa State because if he's a slot only guy and he's 5'9".
No, he doesn't bother me because he's a later round pick. Like if you could get him on day 3, sure. I just don't.
There's no way you get him on day 3. That's the problem.
He's a round 3 guy. He's a round 3 guy.
Fair. Okay, so it's because of Luther Burden, pick number 7, or in a trade back just off the board. I can respect that. What about Emeka Ibuka? How would you feel about that if you were?
I love Ibuka.
Okay,
I would consider it at 7. Really,
you would consider it at 7.
Ideally, if you're going to draft him, Cole, I would like it in a trade back for sure. You recoup some assets, you get back to the 15 range, but I really like his talent overall. I wouldn't hate it at 7. I wouldn't hate it at 7. He's such a smooth route runner. Really like his ability to weave through traffic, get in space. 6 foot, 200 pounds. I think he's a really solid overall receiver.
I would be a little underwhelmed with him at 7 because if I would want to trade back and let somebody else move on up for a tackle, let somebody move up for Ashton Genty, let somebody move on up for a defensive player. But I do think that he would be a really fun fit, like especially with Tanner Enstring coming on in and the way that he has just worked with Denver the last few years. If you're going to run a similar offense as to Ben Johnson, there's your Amon-Ra St. Brown option, and it pairs now 3 Ohio State dudes all together. That fraternity speaks volumes. Just not at 7. That's it for me. If I'm being completely real, and I know that you want to talk about Trey Harris, and we can. I will say with Trey Harris, I don't think he's going to fall to 73. That's a dude who I think is late date round 2, where you're going to have to trade up. Somebody is going to fall in love with him at the pro day in Oxford later this month. They're going to be like, this is a guy that I really want to target in the 2nd round. If he falls to you in round 3, that's really good. But I do think that he would be an interesting fit for this offense to pair alongside with Garrett Wilson. I do. If it's 7 though, I think it's 3 guys. I think it's Tet McMillan, I think it's Armand Membo, and I think it's Tyler Warren. Like those are the 3. And I'm not a fan of 2 of them at actually 7. I'd rather trade back.
Who are the 2 guys? Tet
and Warren and Tet McMillan. If I could trade back, I'd do it.
Okay, and someone else I want to get your thoughts on, whose name has been floated around. Not really at pick number 7. If the Jets really want to get another edge rusher in the building, because Jermaine Johnson, he's going to be back from his Achilles injury, but it's just uncertain what is he going to look like. It's a massive wild card how he comes in and performs right away. Mike Green from Marshall is a name who I really, really like as an overall edge rusher. And there are talks now about him slipping into the back end of the first round. How do you view Mike Green overall as a prospect, and do you think he could be a fit for the Jets?
You and I talked about Mike Green a little bit. I thought that he was a stud. And again, sometimes you got to stop scouting the helmet and just scout the player. He was phenomenal winning his one-on-one battles in the Sun Belt. He came from Virginia. He absolutely dominated when he was a sophomore at Virginia, comes on into Huntington, West Virginia, and he balls on out there, helping the Mean Green win a Sun Belt title. I think he's got a good first explosive step. I think he's really, really talented as taking alignments to the ball. I think he does a good job of working his hands back inside. I think that him and James Pierce kind of fall into that range of what do we do with them, because of one is super athletic, one has the supersized production. I think that both of them are probably outside the top 10, but in still that 11 through 20 range. So if you took him at pick number 7, it's not the worst pick, because you always want pass rushing help. You always want to be able to have that dude that can get to the quarterback.
He's also a great run stuffer too off the edge. And the Jets need that. Like Will McDonald's not a good run stuffer by any means. We haven't seen enough for Jermaine Johnson. So I think he's a 3 to 4 down pass rusher if you really think about it overall.
He could be at least at first when trying to figure out what happens with Jermaine Johnson, a 2 down player, and then eventually he could turn into a 3 down player if you want him to. My personal belief is when it comes to this pass rushing class, I think that there is nobody who I'm set on at pick number 10, because I think all of them have their minor faults. I feel like, again, if you could trade back to say 10, let's just humor me. Let's say the Chicago Bears want to recreate that Detroit offense and the Raiders pass on Ashton Genty. You get a 3rd round pick and pick number 10 to move back 3 spots. And then you take Mike Green. Love it. I think it's a good move. At 7, I'm a little bit weary about it. That's just my 2 cents. Again, I think that when you have an Armand Membu sitting right there and you want to get better at protecting your quarterback, you want to get better on establishing the run, especially for the Tanner Angstring offense, you want to do all those little things. That feels like the right pick at pick number 7. In a trade back, Mike Green, I think, should absolutely be in play. I think it'd be a really good fit for the way they want to utilize him in Aaron Glenn's defensive front.
Billy SBC comes in and says, what do you think the odds are that the Jets are going to wait to 42 to solve this problem? And Coley's talking about finding someone to play opposite of Garrett Wilson on the offensive side of the ball.
I don't think waiting till 42 is that bad. I don't.
I really like the wide receivers on day 2, day 3. Like you could sell me on going Higgins in the 3rd or 4th round with the 72 or 92nd overall pick, and then going with Nick Nash in the 6th round. Maybe you add another wide receiver in free agency. You could sell me on that.
You could definitely sell me, I think, on waiting till round 3 to pick up a wide receiver if you were to sign somebody. I think you got to sign one other dude. Now, I don't know who that is, because you're not going to get Elijah Moore. I don't think that you're
Rondale Moore, maybe?
Maybe. I don't think that you're going to go after Amari Cooper. Somebody brought up on Jake's show, let's go after Amari Cooper. Honestly, I don't mind that as a 1-year flyer. Like, that would be really nice to just have a stable, good overall route runner that you can pair alongside with Garrett Wilson. And then if you go Jaden Higgins, who is an actual, in my opinion, better X receiver than he is a wide receiver, than a Z receiver or shifting inside, then I think that kind of solves your problem right there, is that now you got like an Alan Lazard type replacement for a fraction of the price and may already be better than Alan Lazard ever was in a New York Jets uniform. So I can see that. 42 is really interesting because there's a couple of guys that I do like there. I think Jack Beck is the one that most people are like targeting in that little range of like 42 to 55. And honestly, I don't mind that, because if for any offense, here's the way that I view a Jack Beck. Last season, when he was at TCU, over 1,000 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns. He can play inside. He can also play on the outside. He's better inside, but he can play on the outside. He's going to block his ass off for you. This is somebody who plays a lot like Puka Nacua, where downfield 7-8 yards, they are doing everything possible to create running lanes for their running backs or for the mobile quarterback. They are going to play until the whistle. He can win in contested catches. He is hyper athletic for how big he is, how stocky he is, and how well he moves. He doesn't drop many balls. I think he's also a really, really good creator of I think he does a really good job creating separation in the middle part of the field. I think he also knows his surroundings extremely well. Like the little details that you like in a wide receiver number 2, he has all that. And I think the worst thing for him is teams are going to look at him 2 or 3 years from now, and they're going to say, we may have missed on him as a wide receiver too, but he's a wide receiver 4 that is willing to play special teams. We can utilize him inside the red zone. He's a valuable asset to our roster. We have to continue to re-sign on these 1-year deals. That is what I think Jack Beck's overall floor is going to be. I think his ceiling is a really quality complementary wide receiver 2, top 50 receiver in the NFL.
For sure. Let's see. Our guy Jet Up Caden comes in, says, do you think AVT should be moved out to tackle or draft Melbourne? I think he's referring to Membu there. We spoke about the possibility of drafting Membu. Cole, thoughts on potentially trying to slide AVT out to tackle here? I mean, he's gotten hurt both times the Jets tried that. He's really, really solid as a guard. I understand why people might want like a mauler in the run game, and that's why you might want to slide AVT back out to tackle. But I really, really want to keep him at guard. You have 4/5 of this offensive line in place when it comes to where they're playing positional-wise. I think you get 2 right tackles in here. You obviously are on the Membu train. I'm in the boat of drafting a guy like Ozzie Trapillo with the 73rd overall pick and then signing Kendall Lamb in free agency, someone who's been in the league for 10 years, someone who isn't great against the run, but a super, super solid pass protector. That's the route I would take when it comes to addressing the right tackle position.
If you could do something along the lines of like maybe going after a Marcus Boo from Purdue in round 2, I could see something like that working for you as well. Maybe if you want to go with the Josh Connerly from Oregon, I think he's going to fall. I don't know if he's going to go in round 2. He may go round 3. Connerly.
Wow. There were talks about him being a first-round pick.
My bad. Not Connerly. Not Connerly. Cornelius. The other one, the right tackle.
Najee Cornelius?
Najee Cornelius.
From Oregon, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a round 3 player. So at 73, that could work if you feel like that's a good option for you. But I'm in the same boat as you, Connor. You know what AVT is as a tackle. He's gotten injured twice. You know who he is as a guard. When he's healthy, he's a Pro Bowl caliber guard. And correct me if I'm wrong, Connor, it's a contract year, right?
For AVT?
Yeah. So what are you going to learn from a dude that has shown you twice, I'm going to get hurt playing at the right tackle spot? I may give you 7 games. I may give you 9 games, but I'm going to get hurt eventually playing the right tackle spot. And that may cost us if the momentum is tracking in the right direction. We're going from being a team that maybe is sitting at 6-2 to now we don't win another game. Now we're sitting where we are right now. So I think just leaving him at guard, you know what he's going to do for you at guard. You pair him alongside with your center. You bring in a rookie tackle. I think that having that veteran presence is going to help him out. It's going to help out with a lot of double teams. He's going to be able to pick up some interior some stunts, especially with some defensive ends that are working on in. I don't break it. I leave it as is. I just think it's too.
For sure.
I think it's too much to ask for a first-year staff to say, hey, let's go take a dude that we still believe can be a part of our foundation for the long term and play him out of position once again because of that mauler mentality.
Our number 1 Austrian Jet fan wants some more raffle entries. He comes in
there you go.
5 gifted memberships. Hit it, AG.
I do know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Damn straight. Yeah. Number 1 Austrian Jet fan. Thanks so much for your support here on the show. That is 5 more raffle entries for you. So now Jeffrey R, who's in first place with 140. You are still a little over 100 behind him, but that'll get you a few more raffle entries. Our number 1 Austrian Jet fan comes in. Can't thank you enough for your support. And then Mother Effing Chew wants his first raffle ticket of the month. He comes in with a gifted membership. Thanks so much. Can't thank you enough for all your support. About 10 minutes left here with Cole, so last chance to get your final questions, comments, thoughts in here. Talk draft. We'll take a call or 2 here before we let Cole go.
I know somebody wants to talk, so I'm very excited to hear from him.
A few quick questions before we do so, though. We'll go back to Matthew, who says, I don't want Ted anyways, would rather Membu than Weapon or Jalen Walker / Edge or Will Johnson if they can move Stevens to free safety.
Wow, Matthew did something smart. I'm very happy right now. Okay, good job, Matthew.
They're not going to move Stevens to free safety. They tried that at the beginning of his career with the Ravens. Didn't work out. He's going to be a cornerback. They paid him $36 million. He's going to be the cornerback too for this team. whether you like it or not. Jalen Walker is certainly an interesting one. Jalen Walker and Mykel Williams, Cole, the two Georgia guys, have been like fluctuating up and down boards. When the pre-draft process first started, Mykel Williams was being talked about as a top 10 pick. Now he's being mocked pretty much at the end of the first round. So certainly an interesting name there. Jalen Walker is another one, kind of that outside linebacker type. I think it's a little rich at 7 for me.
I do like Jalen Walker. I do. I really, really do. I think it's not going to be what you get from Abdul Carter. But what I will say is that the way that they can utilize him from an outside blitzing perspective, like, okay, what's a good comparison to this without saying Isaiah Simmons? Because Isaiah Simmons didn't play linebacker. He played everywhere. But like, because again, it's not like it's also not Micah Parsons. But the fact is that you can play him at the second level of the defense, and he can be such a good delayed blitzer that will give you 9.5 sacks and 17 tackles for losses, but he can also get you 80 to 90 tackles per season. I don't mind it. I think that he is going to go top 10. There's a gut intuition right now that Jalen Walker to the Carolina Panthers would make so much sense for the way that they want to run their defense. With now Shaq Thompson gone, they get that guy who can potentially shift inside permanently to linebacker, but be a great blitzer of the interior. I could see something like that happening. I would steer clear of Mykel Williams. I will say, before they signed Stevens,
he's a poor man Shamar Stewart in my eyes.
Before they signed Stevens, I was one of the very few who said if Will Johnson tests at Michigan's Pro Day and he tests really well, I really would not mind him at 7 for the New York Jets, because it's just there's something about cornerback working with the former Pro Bowl cornerback, working with the guy that has been one of the more refined defensive back coaches, has spent years working on his craft in the secondary, working with one of the worst secondaries and turning it around in Detroit. And I get a guy that knows the position, and pairing him as a CB2 with Sauce and basically resetting that cornerback room for the next 5 years, because Sauce is going to get paid and then you have 5 years to figure out what Will Johnson is. I don't mind it. Now, with Stevens involved, changes things, drastically changes things. But I will say Matthew Smith is actually kind of right here. There's that little part of me that just says, I get a defensive back as my head coach, make the first pick a defensive back, make it a corner, watch it flourish, because he is not going to let that pick. It feels so perfect in my brain that the former guy drafted by the New York Jets as a cornerback takes a cornerback with his first picks and guarantees that kid does not fail. Like, that to me, just like, there's a part of me that just says he will bet his soul. He will sell his soul to the football devil and be out of football when he is fired from the Jets, then allow this kid to fail. Like, he will sell his soul to guarantee this kid is successful.
A few more questions here before we go over to the phone lines. Joe Grana comes in and says, where do you target not 1 but 2 defensive tackles? It's such a deep defensive tackle class, Cole. You could even do something. Mason Graham's off the board. I think Kenneth Grant could be a really, really solid scheme fit. Maybe the Jets go that at pick 7, and then they wait until the 3rd or 4th round to roll the dice on a guy like Jamari Caldwell from Oregon. It was a huge guy you could put in the middle. Or you go Grant at 7, and then you go Tyleek Williams at 42. You double up there, but I think that's a little unlikely to use your first 2 picks on 2 defensive tackles. How do the Jets address this need, Cole?
I'm just not a fan of anybody but Mason Graham really inside the top 10 for defensive tackle, because there's just so much to really like Kenneth Grant. We didn't see tests during Indianapolis, and I already thought that he was a fringe first round pick. I think Walter Nolan's a really, really, really good defensive tackle. And for the run stuffing factor of things, you already talking about this, Connor. They have not been, they need a run stopping edge. Now, do you feel that way at the defensive tackle spot? Because if so, Walter Nolan should be in play, because Walter Nolan is just such a good run stopper, and he's a really good interior pass rusher. Last season, he had 6.5 sacks at Ole Miss, but he was the anchor for the number 1 run defense in the SEC and the number 2 run defense in college football. Like, Ole Miss, I think, allowed 100 rushing yards in 1 game last year, and they went up against Florida. They went up against Georgia. Nobody could run the football against them to save their life. I think it was Wake Forest was the team that gave 121 rushing yards to, and everyone else, they couldn't run it. So I think that would be good. Vernon Broughton from Texas at 73, I think would be really interesting. Alfred Collins at 42, I think would be a pretty good one. That's a dude that was a part of 2 back-to-back stellar defensive lines at the University of Texas. I think CJ West from Indiana in round 4 would make a lot of sense. Big dude, just takes up space. He would be kind of more so, I think, a 1 eye tech rather than a 3 tech. you would shift him around a little bit. He would be mostly like a 2-down dude, but I think that he is just his overall frame itself would just be willing to be that space eater that would just take away one.
Tonka Hemingway is my late day 3
Tonka
guy.
Hemingway is a dude that is awesome at South Carolina. If you're looking for his counterpart to be a good pass rushing set, that's TJ Sanders. I think he could be a play at 73.
You think he's going to go 73? Really? I think in like second round.
I just don't like him at 42. Like I think that you.
I like him if you trade back. Maybe you trade back from 42.
I can see that.
You get into like the 55 to 60 range. So end round 2, top round 3. I would like him there more because I like Jack Besh at 42 a lot. I really do. If you don't go wide receiver in the first round,
that is whoever lands Jack Besh, I think is going to have a really, really good season. Like I don't know if they're going to go to the playoffs, but I think that you're going to figure out. We may have gotten the best overall receiver for the value in the second round rather than taking a guy at 1. Like that's just my 2 cents, especially for a guy like Besh. A couple of other late defensive tackles that I really do like. I don't think Tyreek Williams is going to be there by 73, but I think Josh Farmer could. Jordan Birch out of Oregon in a trade back scenario, I think could be there. Derek Harmon's going to be way gone. JJ Pegues is just so much fun. Like,
he's fun.
He's a 357-pound dude that is wanting to line up on offense and play fullback, running back, tight end, but he also is pretty decent against the run. Like that's a round 5, dude. That's
complete flyer.
That's a day 3. You're just taking a shot in the dark, and hopefully you're able to get him up to speed. But I just like I like his mojo. I like his mentality. I like his vibes. Like that's a dude that I'm more.
Yeah. I know we only have a few minutes left here with Cole, so we'll take some calls. Someone who's been backstage for a little while wanting to go up first. We'll take 2 calls, though. Charles is first up here on the show. Charles, how you doing?
Where are you?
Oh, we're trying to... Where were we here? Charles, we're going to throw you on the screen. Charles? There you go.
Hi, Charles.
Hey, Cole, how are you?
How you doing?
Good, man. Listen, what are your thoughts? I'm not saying they should take him at 7, but if you mind taking this quarterback in the later rounds, like the quarterback from Syracuse, Kyle McCord, what are your thoughts on him?
I love Kyle McCord. That's my day 3 dude. That is my it's like I don't know how many people in the chat or people love college football the way that I do, but I will tell you when Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt got a waiver to be able to come back for 1 more year, I really wanted Kyle McCord to get that for Syracuse because I thought he got a short end of the stick when he was at Ohio State. I thought that the fact that they moved off him too quickly pissed me off. The way that he set an ACC record, I thought Syracuse was going to be a really, really, really good team with Fran Brown. But there's a lot to like, I think, about his throwing mechanics. I think that he's quick with his delivery. I think his decision-making is really strong. I like his value at like in day 3 more than I like a Jalen Milroe in round 3 or like a Quinn Ewers in round 3 or like a Jackson Dart at the end of round 1 because I think all of them are flyers. But with the 4th round pick, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're expecting from him. You're just hopeful that he pans out and can be a decent backup with maybe a couple of games under his belt to start from here or there, where I think every single one of them fits that category. But we're talking about these other guys, like they could easily be frontline options in round 2. And it's like, did we not learn anything from 2022? Stop overhyping a bad quarterback class and just take the dudes in the later rounds and watch it flourish. I think Kyle McCord, from his throwing motion, his accuracy, his quick decision-making, there was really only one game where I really was disappointed. It was the Pitt game where he threw like 4 interceptions. Outside of that, he was clean. He always seemed to be making the right reads. And there was a reason why Syracuse, I think, had such a dynamic offense. And like 4 dudes on that offense all had over 700 receiving yards. So I really like Kyle McCord.
Okay, now Xavier Restrepo, the star wide receiver at Miami.
Yeah.
You wouldn't mind if the Jets take him at 42, correct?
I would rather Jack Besh, personally. I think from the kid from TCU. But if you took him in round 2, let's say there was like a run on wide receivers. And like Besh is gone and Higgins is gone. And it's like him and Isaiah Bond. I would take Xavier Restrepo over Isaiah Bond. Like that would be it for 42. I'd rather take him and trade back.
Okay. Well, you keep saying that the pick the Jets should make should be a right tackle because the Jets signed Okorafor from the Patriots, who had a bad year for them last year.
Terrible.
Yes. They're disgusting.
You think he's a bad player? Because I didn't think he was.
You can't rely on him as a starter.
I'm telling you,
played 12
Charles. I
snaps. He
want
had
him
like
as
6 pressures. He allowed 6
Charles.
pressures.
I want
on
him
12
as
snaps.
a straight up. He has to play because of our 2 other guys are injured. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Oh, so he's really that bad of a player. Okay, never mind. So Membu is the right tackle from what school? I forgot. I apologize. Missouri. Okay, so you want the Jets thinking, well, I really like this tight end from Penn State and Tyler Warren. I know a lot of you guys want Ted McMillan. I really like Tyler Warren a lot. I was very impressed with his game, especially the game against, what the hell was it? When he made that great catch in the corner of the end zone. Was it against
the Boise State game?
Yes, they blew him out. That was Aston Genty's team who had a tremendous season. Tyler Warren, I can understand the comparisons between him, Jeremy Shockey, and Rob Gronkowski, but to me, I see more of a George Kittle in him. George Kittle, who I think is a future Hall of Fame tight end, in my humble and honest opinion. But that's the pick I wanted, Tiff. I know you got Connor there wants Ted McMillan. I've yet to watch film on him. I have yet to watch film on Colin McCord. But I just want the reason why I asked because I heard a lot of good things about him. Like, he wears the number 6 because he grew up a Jets fan because of Mark Sanchez and all that stuff. And he already had a very nice season at Syracuse, which is nice. Very good. Another thing I would want is Keenan Allen's still a free agent because I really want the Jets to try to pick him up.
He's too expensive.
He's too expensive.
I
know he's over
about $13 million.
What?
It's going to cost you about $12 to $13 million.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, but I think Keenan Allen playing alongside Garrett Wilson could really help Garrett Wilson a lot. Plus, you don't really have to worry about the quarterback force feeding him the ball like Aaron Rodgers tried to do with Devontae Adams for a few games or so.
Sure.
So, and plus, Keenan Allen to me is a great wide receiver when he's healthy. He's one of the best in the game. Been a fan of his games since the days with the Chargers. So that's who I want. But if the Jets don't even, I would personally want to take Tyler Warren at 7. But if they somehow, let's say, they trade for Dallas Goedert for a 4th round and give up for a 4th round pick, I would be fine with that. But Membu, I gotta watch film on him. But I heard he's supposed to be, like you say, the best tackle in his class.
I think he is the best tackle. He's not the best offensive lineman, but there's a reason for that. I think
Campbell's the best.
I think that Will Campbell is a guard. Now, a lot of people are going to say he's going to try him out at tackle. We're going to see him in 2 or 3 years, Charles, get an all-pro accolade attached to his name when he's playing left guard for the New England Patriots or he's playing left guard for the Jacksonville Jaguars. By the way, he won his 1st round, right, with Jake Asman, right?
Yes, he did. Charles, great call as always, too. I appreciate you checking
I love Charles. I love that man. I want to fart. That was all I was waiting for from him. No, okay. Here's the thing so I was, and I think you know this, Connor, I was anti Brock Bowers last year. I was against the Bowers.
I remember having you on, and
I was against Bauer boys like 10 times that time. But there's a reason for it. Because of you are getting a quarterback coming off of a torn Achilles injury, a receiving only tight end. It made no sense to me. When you have a hole at left tackle, when you have a hole at tackle.
1,000%.
It made no sense to me. Tyler Warren is a blocker. Now, is he a good enough blocker the way that I would say George Kittle was coming out of Iowa? No. Is he even, I would say, an average blocker for the NFL? Probably not. But I will say that I think his potential, his ceiling is right there with Sam Laporta. A guy that can hit at all 3 levels, be a solid overall pass protector, can really help out in the run game. You can utilize him in so many different formations. He can take over the middle of the field. He's great open field speed. I'm more pro Tyler Warren at 7 than I ever was Brock Bowers at 13.
For sure.
Simply because of I know I can get at least him trying to block. I didn't even want to try to see what I was going to get from Brock Bowers if we had to throw him as an inline blocker. It never made sense to me.
For sure. Cole, I know we only have a few more minutes. We have a fun caller, I think.
Is it Beastbreaker?
You'll see, Cole. You'll see.
Is it Beastbreaker?
Here he is. Here he is. Unleash the beast.
Let's go!
You'll hear it in about 30 seconds, Beast.
Come on, Beast. Let's see.
A few more minutes. We have a fun caller.
He doesn't know it.
You'll see, Cole. You'll see. Here he is. Unleash the beast. You'll hear it in about 30 seconds, Beast.
To Mr. Cole Thompson. Let's get ready to rumble!
Yes!
Oh! Are we ready to turn up some heat? I'm starting to notice a lot of connection with all this stuff going around. I'm thinking, where the hell do we go with ideas? I'm sitting there. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think to this. I'm like, in term of respect, like there's many ways we could think of ways that we could get some talent. I'm like, we're getting our asses kicked in many different ways. I'm like, Brock Bowers is one of them. Tyler Warren is another. Where do you go with common sense and also adding up all the other stuff? And then you're going, okay, what do you do? What do you want to do? I know what we could do. Take 11.50 billion out. Go get some new meat instead of this old, beat up, washed up, nothing happening old meat. We don't need this shit. This is the problem. We're not getting the talent. We're not getting anywhere with it. It's called, okay, let's do what we have to do. Calm down. And also, there's one other thing that we got to get rid of. Get rid of Greg Zuerlein. The guy reeks. I'll give you a hint. He stinks. He stinks. Woo. Get out of here.
Beast,
That's called smell. That's bad odor. It's called,
Beast, you're making so much sense, buddy. Before we move on, I gotta ask this out of you. I gotta see what is Justin Fields gonna look like on the 1 yard line when he is going in for a quarterback sneak. I gotta see it. I've heard that you're the best at doing it, Beast.
Hardball, we're gonna have to learn to play hardball the hard way.
Beast, he wants to see you imitate Justin Fields scrambling at the red zone.
What is Justin Fields gonna look like on the 1 yard line when he is going in for a quarterback sneak? I gotta see it. I've heard that you're the best at doing it, Beast. Here we go. Is he gonna do it?
Oh, really? I'll tell you what. Let's turn it up. Are we ready?
Yes.
We're going to have to turn it up one way or the other then. Ready, go.
The Beast, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, God, I love him so much. I'm so mad that he lost the first round. I am
One punch
about
Brigga.
that.
One punch Brigga. I love Beast. I'm super happy that he checked in here on the show. I thought Dave Brigga was going to win though.
Did you really?
Yeah. I knew there were a lot of. I knew it was going to be the closest one, and I think it was 51-49 or something like that. I think it might have been. Yeah, I knew it was going to be that close. I just know that Beast is a very polarizing figure, and I think Dave Brigga's call the night of the bracket reveal really, really helped him out. And he was in your final four, right, Cole?
That was my final four upset so far. That's the only one that I haven't. So I have all three of my final four left. I have 7 of my 8 Elite 8 left, and I have 14 of my 16 Sweet 16 left. So
my bracket's busted because I had Allen in my final four.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So I had Allen get upset to Craig from Australia. So
in the next round.
But
he lost to Jets Johnny. Yeah.
I say, Jet, that was a tough one. I thought that maybe Jets Johnny was not going to be able to pull away just because of Allen is so polarizing. But apparently he's not calling in anymore as much because he has a quote unquote job or whatever they want to go ahead and say.
So yeah, this is what I will say. Allen made his final appearance until September on this show. We did an Allen farewell show, Cole, just a few months ago, and we learned that he said it on the air. He apparently is doing like something consulting now with some I think he might have said it was the NFL. He's doing some consulting thing now until September, so he is unable to show his face on the air until September. So right after the first Jets loss is when Allen will return.
Why is he consulting with the NFL? Who wants his opinion on anything? He's an Iowa fan. They don't know shit out there.
Cole, I can't thank you enough for hopping on. Everyone, can't thank you guys enough for tuning in. Cole, I know you got to run, so I appreciate the time. As always, you got any final thoughts?
It's still early in free agency. A couple moves can be made to change the entire draft trajectory within about 24 hours. So the mock rule number, and here's just the number one rule that I tell everybody: when you're reading mock drafts, take it with a grain of salt right now. Honestly, with free agency, with moves that are going to be made, with trades that could happen, up until really the last 3 or 4 mock drafts that you see, it's all just throwing darts at a board and hoping something sticks. Don't take it too personally. Don't say, oh, we got to be locked into this dude. So much can change at a drop of a hat to where you thought you were going one way, you're going another way.
Cole, you're the best. Can't thank you enough for sparing some time, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. He's Cole. I'm Connor. That'll do it for us. JETS, 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 Jets.